Hey, how's it going? Today, I'm talking about how slowing down long runs helped her go from just finishing a marathon to a princess PR. This is an interview with Christina Bowler.
This is Running to the Castle, a podcast for injury prone Run Disney runners on a journey to running magical miles. Join me, Dr. Allie, as I share the secrets I've gathered as a runner, doctor of physical therapy, and coach. You'll learn the exact ways I get my clients to the castle strong without feeling broken or held together with KT tape as they cross the finish line.
Okay, I am so excited. We have an interview today. I am interviewing Christina Bowler, and we are going to hear her whole journey of running, where she started from, all the way up until her most recent Princess Half Marathon weekend, where she got an exciting finish time. Hi, Christina. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is my first time being on a podcast, so it's cool to check that off the bucket list.
Very cool. I'm honored that this is your first. So, if you wouldn't mind telling me and the listeners what got you started into running, where are you coming from with that?
Yeah, so I'm coming from a background of not being athletic. I was the kid who couldn't run the mile in gym class. It was pretty humiliating. So I was never an athlete, never considered myself good at sports. I was a theater kid. Um, but I love Disney. And growing up, our family vacation was Disney. We're DVC, Disney Vacation Club members. So we'd be going like every year. And even as I grew into adulthood, still love Disney. I'm a Disney adult. Um, and I found through like a blog, I found out about the Run Disney events. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Look at all these characters that you never get to see in the parks. This is so cool. Look at all these rare characters. And so I got into Run Disney because I like rare characters and I like Disney. And I was like, wow, what is this? And so after doing some Googling, and kind of getting the scoop, I was like, you know what? I want to do this. So I signed up, for the Wine and Dine half marathon, uh, for 2023. So yeah, November 2023, I had zero, zero running experience. But I followed the Jeff Galloway training plan, that Run Disney had on their website, and it went pretty well. I think I started out with 15 seconds running, 30 seconds walking during training, and then I upped that to 20 seconds running, 40 seconds walking, and that was my interval. I made it through my first half marathon, and then I went on to do the 2024 Disney World Marathon weekend half marathon, which that was the one that wound up being the half of a half. It got rained and thunderstormed out. I
I was
did
there.
the yeah, if you know, you know. It was it was a rough time. I did the Princess half marathon. I did Springtime Surprise. So I went from no running to, hey, let me do every single Run Disney race weekend in the 2023-2024 race season. And I lived an hour and a half from Disney at the time. So it was really doable and easy. I was really lucky I didn't have to deal with plane tickets or any of that. And I was just chilling with my Jeff Galloway intervals, doing the 2040. And then I did Wine and Dine in 2024. I did the half marathon, and I was also training for my first marathon. So I signed up for the 2025 Disney World Marathon weekend, and that was going to be my first marathon ever. And I was still doing the Jeff Galloway, and I did Wine and Dine, and I remember all of a sudden feeling pain. Like my knee was hurting, and I was panicked. I was so freaked out. because it just wasn't going away. And I knew in my heart, I was like, oh no, I've done something. I've done it. I don't know what I've done, but I've done it. And I didn't know what to do because Run Disney events are so expensive. You sign up for them so far in advance that the thought of, not being able to do a race, like there's so much pressure on not being able to make it through a race or make it even to the starting line, let alone finish and not get swept. And then on top of that, it's my first marathon. I have told everyone and their mother that I'm going to be doing my first marathon because I'm an external motivator. Um
Yep. So now
so
everybody knows.
So now everybody knows, everyone's asking me how training's going. I'm not shutting up about it. And now I'm in pain and I'm not even sure that I can do the marathon. And I'm just so panicked. I also don't live in Florida anymore. I moved to Virginia. So now I do have flights booked, hotels booked. All of a sudden my investment in this race weekend is a lot more than it was when I was living in Florida. And that's how I found you. Someone in one of the Run Disney Facebook groups had asked a question about knee pain, and your name came up in one of the comments. And I remember going onto Instagram because I couldn't focus. I went onto Instagram and I sent you a message, and I went onto your website and I filled out the contact me page to sign up for training or coaching or help figuring out what was going on with my knee. And I was checking my DMs on Instagram every 10 minutes waiting for a reply because I was I can't focus. This woman, she's going to help me. I just know it. This is my saving grace. And you were. I made it through. I made it through my first marathon. And then I went on to do the Princess Fairy Tale Challenge just this past February 2026.
Yes. So you went from hating running, can't do the mile in gym class, and then all of a sudden, ooh, characters. Let's go find the rare characters, even if I have to run. And you jumped right into 13.1. And then you
Yeah.
did all of them. And within 18 months of starting your running journey, here you are doing the marathon. If that's not a typical Run Disney story, if I've heard one, I mean, it's so common, right? You're either joining because you're a Disney adult and you love the rare characters, or you see the medal in the parks. Or I guess the third one is my sister, my cousin, my friend does these races and dragged me along, and then you're hooked for life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When do you remember when it was that you first heard about Run Disney? So you signed up for Wine and Dine 2023, but how far ahead of that had you learned about Run Disney before you were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sign up for this?
So the timing was actually it worked out really well. I found out about Run Disney about a month before registration for Wine and Dine opened up.
Okay. Okay. So you had a hot second to decide yes or no. And then what did you do for training? You mentioned the Galloway plans. When did you start training for that Wine and Dine weekend? So Wine and Dine is October 2023. Registration was probably February of
I think
2023.
I think so, yeah. And then I started training around, I'd say April 2023. So I followed the schedule that the Galloway plan gives you from the Run Disney website. So it was a few months of training for sure.
Okay. Okay. And then you're signing up for the races in 2024 before you've even done your first one.
Yeah, I remember having the thought, wow, I hope I like this. Cause I'm signing up for a lot of these races and I haven't even done my first one. I have a feeling I'll like it, but if I don't, that's going to be really unfortunate because now I'm signed up anyways.
Right, because like you mentioned with Run Disney, it's use it or lose it. You can't transfer it, you can't defer it, nothing. And so you're in it. So
Yeah.
how was that first wine and dine for you?
It was amazing. So I should also mention that I actually did not get into the wine and dine registration when it opened up on the Run Disney website. I um found out that my internet at the office where I worked blocks the Disney website. So I had planned on registering while I was at work and just keeping a browser tab open in the background. And it led me all the way through the virtual queue to sign up. And then at the last minute, it wouldn't let me log into my Disney account because our server blocked the website. So I did not get into wine and dine after all this like excitement and it's finally my turn on the line to register. So I actually ran with a charity. Um and that was a really amazing experience. It was like one door closed and another one opened. And I didn't get the Run Disney experience that I had wanted or planned for, but I got something that was 100 times more impactful. So I've fundraised again since that first wine and dine because I think it's so fulfilling. And I highly recommend to anyone who can't get into registration or maybe doesn't want to deal with the stress of regular registration, consider doing a charity because it's so rewarding. So yeah, I feel like my first race weekend experience was made so much like more fun just by being part of a charity. So I got to meet the people who were organizing. I ran with Dragon Master Initiative. So I got to meet the founder of the charity. We had a luncheon for the runners who had fundraised. So that was really cool. And then they were also there at the starting line to like say hi to people and cheer people on. So that was really nice because right when I rolled up to the race, there were familiar faces saying like, "Hey, good luck, you're gonna kill it." And then the actual race itself it went really well. Um, I felt like I had prepared. I had done the work of training. I had made it up to 13 miles following the Galloway plan, so I knew I could do it. I followed my like intervals of 20 seconds running, 40 seconds walking, and it went really smoothly. I stopped for a couple characters. I stopped for Horace, the horse, who he's an old school one. I'm not sure if everyone knows. But I was really excited to see Horace because he's one of those ones you don't really see in the parks. I stopped for a couple other characters, but I'm blanking on which ones. I stopped for pictures in front of the Epcot ball. It was great. Like, amazing first race weekend. Everything went so smoothly,
And you were hooked.
and I was hooked. Yeah.
And you were hooked. And then you just kept on training for the next because you did half marathon at marathon weekend, you did half marathon at Princess, and then you did which race did you do at Springtime Surprise? The 10 miler?
The 10 miler. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just keep training or did you take a break after wine and dine before continuing on for the 2024 races?
So again, Jeff Galloway, there's a plan specifically for going from wine and dine race weekend to marathon weekend. So it covers that. I forget if it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks between the two races, but it covers that few weeks in between them and gives you the mileage to do between them. So I just followed that. And between marathon weekend and princess weekend, that was a pretty quick gap. So I think I took maybe like a week off after each race of just walking instead of running. And the Galloway plan eases you back into the mileage. Yeah, I just followed what was on the plan, didn't really think much about it. Everything was working fine. And my pace did improve between Wine and Dine and Princess Weekend. So I felt like I was doing a really good job.
That's great. By this time, because Princess Weekend is the end of February, beginning of March, depending on how, the calendar falls. So at this point, you're already thinking about doing the marathon for 2025, right?
Yeah. I think I signed up for the marathon. It was after Springtime Surprise. I think it was in June.
And
No,
you did
it
it with a
wasn't.
charity
It
again?
wasn't in June. It would have been, I think it was in March.
Typically, March is when marathon weekend normal registration is, like the second week or so in March. And so, did you register through the normal registration process, or did you do a charity again for the marathon?
No, I registered through the normal registration process. I worked from home that day, so our work internet wouldn't block the Run Disney site.
You you learned.
Yeah, so this is like a PSA for anyone out there whose office blocks ESPN. That's a really big indicator that you also probably won't be able to log into your Disney account on your um work internet.
Yeah, they're
So
the same
work from
parent
home on
company.
registration day. Yeah.
Work from home on registration day or sign up with a charity.
Or sign up with a charity. Yeah. So I did get in through normal registration.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So everything's going swimmingly, and since you signed up through normal registration process, you signed up in March. How was it with, you finished essentially a perfect run Disney season. Now, of course, there's no official perfect run Disney, but I think if you're doing every race weekend, no matter how many races throughout the weekend, to me that's a perfect season. Do you how was it, finishing the perfect season, and then did you go like, do you keep going and go straight into marathon training? Is there a break? Were you burnt out yet?
I I was feeling a little burnt out by the end of Springtime Surprise. So I took about a month off of running. And then when I did get back into it, I wasn't following a training plan. I was doing like 30-minute easy runs 2 or 3 times a week, just to keep a little bit of a baseline fitness there. I wasn't increasing my mileage. I was just doing 30 minutes a couple times a week.
Yeah, just keep it so my legs are moving, make it so that I'm not huffing and puffing and feeling like I'm dying by the time I get back into race training officially. And
Yeah.
so then you're doing Wine and Dine 2024 while training for marathon. So what do you do to train for that? Do you just train for a marathon and then throw a half marathon in there? What did you do for this one?
I followed Jeff Galloway again, and I followed the marathon training schedule. And I think they do have an option for runners who are doing Wine and Dine half and then the full in January.
They do.
So they take the guesswork out of the scheduling, which was really nice. I just followed what was on my little Galloway PDF printout from the Run Disney website. Sorry,
Perfect.
that's been my answer for about every
That
training schedule related question so far is I just followed the Galloway plan.
that's perfect because that's what you did and that's what the other runners listening were doing or maybe currently are doing. But that leads us into why you have switched out from using that training plan. Not that there's something inherently wrong with it. Many runners hit a point where it no longer is working for them. And that brings us to Wine and Dine 2024, where stuff may have hit the fan for you.
Yeah, so I followed the Galloway plan for Wine and Dine and then springboarded into Galloway plan for marathon weekend of 2025. And the Galloway plan had me do 17 miles on Wine and Dine race day, which includes the really long trek to the start line and the really long trek once you finish and are trying to get back to the parking area. So I'm not surprised that, there's some extra distance tacked on to race day. Um, the real issue came when my 20-mile long run, which was a few weeks after Wine and Dine, when I did that. There's a really important part in the Galloway training program where they talk about your pace for your long runs and how your long runs should be easy. I think they even recommend going about 2 minutes per mile slower than your like goal race pace for your long runs to keep them easy. I stopped doing that after doing a full season of Run Disney races, feeling really confident that hey, I'm becoming quite the runner here, right? I want to get faster. So why wouldn't I run my long runs at the pace I want to run my race at? That makes sense. What could
You prac
possibly go wrong?
Right, you practice like you play. Why wouldn't this be the same reason, the same thing? Yeah.
Yeah. So I had increased my intervals from 20/40 to 30/30 going into training for 2024 Wine and Dine and 2025 Marathon. So I increased my intervals. And then I wasn't decreasing my pace on the long runs. I was running them at the same pace as my 30-minute runs during the week. And I just did that and did that and did that. And the mileage increased every other week and everything was fine until the 20-mile long run. And well, I'd say probably after Wine and Dine, after that 17 miles, my knee started feeling a little twingy. And I was like, I'm probably just recovering from race weekend. It's fine. But it didn't go away. And then after the 20-mile long run, I just knew I'm really hurt. Walking up and down the stairs hurts. Um, the pain's not really going away. I've actually hurt myself.
Okay. And do you remember that race weekend, that Wine and Dine, what your finish time or your pace was for that? It's okay if you don't.
I think it was around a 14-minute mile,
Okay.
but
Okay.
that's an estimate. I don't remember off the top of my head.
That's no problem. I'm just thinking, was that what you were running on these long runs as well?
Oh, I was running faster on my long runs. I was running about 13 minutes per mile. I was zooming. It was great until it wasn't.
Till it wasn't. So you're running faster than your actual race pace. Now, of course, you did stop for characters and things like that on at Wine and Dine. So that's not exactly running pace, but yeah. So you're for probably 4 months now. You're running faster and faster and longer, and
Mhm.
it was going swimmingly until it wasn't.
Yeah. That 20-mile long run really broke me. And that's when all of a sudden the anxiety over, am I even going to be able to do the marathon, just really hit me full force. Um, I've never been, I've been really lucky to have been healthy for most of my life. I've never broken any bones. I've never had any like serious injuries. So I didn't even know where to go or like who to talk to get treatment for my knee. I was like, do I go to a physical therapist? How do I see a physical therapist? Do I have to go to a primary care? Do I need surgery? Who do I even go to right now? I had just moved um to a new city, so I didn't even have a primary care doctor set up yet. Yeah, it was I was
That's a
so
lot.
stressed out.
And 2 months, essentially 2 months before race day. And you're probably looking at the training schedule because Galloway Training Plan has you keep going up until what? It's like 28 miles or so, couple weeks before the marathon.
Yeah, they have you go more than the marathon distance, which is a philosophy that worked for me for the half marathons because if you know you can do 14 miles, you've done 14, 13.1, walk in a park at that point. I mean, not actually 13.1, still, it's still tough. But because you know in your head, hey, I've done 14, it makes it a little less scary. So that philosophy worked for me for the half marathons, but I don't think it would have worked for me for the marathon, um, going beyond 26 miles in training.
Especially at this point now with this knee pain.
But yeah, there was no way I was clocking 28 miles with my knee being on fire.
Yeah. Luckily, thank you to the stranger that we do not know that did mention me in the Facebook group because you found me. We work together. Spoiler alert for anybody who's listening to this and hasn't caught on yet. Christine is one of my clients. In case you haven't caught that on yet, that's okay. She is. Found me in end of October, beginning of November 2024 in preparation for that marathon weekend 2025. Do you remember how things changed training wise for you at that point?
Yeah, I I had no choice but to trust your process, but I was so skeptical. I remember my training changed with one of the biggest things being slow down. So we did um the easy 25-minute runs during the week, keeping my intervals, but we slowed my pace down so much. Like we figured out what the pace was that I could run at without my knee hurting at all. And it was so slow. It was an 18-minute and some change mile. So trying to run at that pace feels like it feels cartoonish. It's really hard to slow your body down that much. I'm out on the streets of Richmond, Virginia, running at my pace. That's running like motion wise, but not really running pace wise. I'm like, oh man, people probably think I'm a loon. This is what have I gotten myself into? Same thing with the long runs on the treadmill. I did those at 18, 19-minute per mile average pace. It was so slow. And then you also gave me knee rehab exercises, which you were like a magician, like getting to the root of my knee pain on video camera, like not even seeing my knee in person and being able to like lay hands and like poke around and feel what's going on just from describing and going through a million questions. Like you got to the root of it on a Zoom call, which was sorcery. It blows my mind. And you were right. Like the knee rehab exercises you gave combined with this really, really slowing down my pace within within a few weeks, my pain had really gone away.
The magic, the sorcery that I have.
Yeah, so I was able to get through the marathon. And during training leading up to that, my longest run was 20 miles. And I remember questioning you saying, but how am I supposed to get through 26 if I've only ever done 20 in training? How am I going to tack on another 6 miles to this when a 20-mile long run doesn't really feel great? I don't feel like I'm ready to do another 6 more. I'm not I don't feel like I'm going to die. Like I'm finishing somewhat strong, but I don't feel really excited about the idea of having to do 6 more miles us. And your strategy was so genius of you told me run your 20-mile long run at whatever average pace slow down your average pace so much so that the 20 miles takes the same amount of time as 26 miles would on race day. So you're still getting the e- experience and like endurance training of being on your feet for 6 hours and 45 minutes for 26 miles, but distance wise, you're only doing 20. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. And it worked. I got through the marathon. I finished in 6 minutes, 54 seconds. The blizzard,
6 minutes and 54
I
seconds?
mean, sorry, 6 hours and 54. Woo!
Really am magic. Look at that training plan.
Wow. I'm about to be the best plug for your training plans ever. Sorry, 6 hours and 54 minutes. Let me catch my units on that. 6 hours and 54 minutes. um, so I was pretty slow, but I made it through. The Blizzard Beach parking lot humbled me. Um, but I stopped for a bunch of characters. I stopped for my picture jumping in front of the castle at Magic Kingdom. I stopped in front of the Crowned Athletics cheering section in front of the Boardwalk Resort because I was rocking my Crowned Athletics. I got really teary-eyed in the last mile of the race course and had to stop for a second and like get it together because I realized I'm in the clear. I'm going to finish my first marathon. And I had trained physically, but I hadn't trained mentally for that moment of, oh my gosh, it's happening. Like this thing that I've worked for months and months and months. It's finally about to come true. Even after having an injury, I'm about to do the thing. And it hit me. I was crying on that race course. Some good Samaritan stranger came up to me and was like, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Do you want me to stay with you and, you know, get you through to the finish line?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine. I'm just really emotional." She was like, "Is this your first marathon?" I was like, "Yeah, what gave it away?" She was a dopey runner. She was in her purple and green. She was a dopey runner. Um, but yeah, I made it through the marathon, took a bunch of pictures, had a great time. My knee held up. It went well.
It worked, and you got to cry happy tears and have a complete stranger. That is such Run Disney community right there, right? Like, I'm going to check in on this person because they are clearly distressed in some way, shape, or form. Do they need medical attention? Do they need a pacer? What do they need? Luckily for you, it was you were so excited, you couldn't hang with your emotions and they were just falling out of your eyeballs.
Yeah, yeah. That's like the only thing I need right now is a tissue. I'm really snotty when I cry, so I was like, I gotta blow my nose, otherwise I'm gonna be, huffing and puffing to get to the finish line, and it's
It's going to
not
be a
gonna be because of running. It's gonna be because my nose is blocked.
it's going to be a
Um,
big snotty finish line photo.
yeah, I was like, okay, I have a mile to, clean myself up for those finish line pictures. But yeah, that is the epitome of Run Disney races. I feel like there's so much kindness from strangers that goes around. Just that marathon morning, it was freezing cold in the corrals and I did not bring enough layers with me. And a stranger had an extra Mylar blanket that they gave me.
Ah,
Again,
that's
like
so kind.
yeah, I feel like I have never seen such kindness as strangers that run Disney weekends. They really do look out for each other.
That's why I love this community. We're all
Yeah.
there for each other. Absolutely. That's great. So you have finished the marathon and you thought, what's next? You doing a full run Disney race season again? You did not. You skipped Princess Weekend and Springtime Surprise that year, right? So where were you at with your thoughts with race season now that the big one, the marathon was done?
I took a couple months off. I I was ready for a break. I was ready to not have to wake up on a weekend and be on the treadmill for several hours. So I took a much needed break, and that was it summer. You launched the Stronger Faster Finisher program.
March that
March, that
year.
spring. Yeah, so that
Yes.
spring you started Stronger Faster Finisher. And I signed up for that, and I said, I don't have any races really planned. I know I want to do a challenge at some point. Um, I can't do Wine and Dine 2025 because I'm getting married. So life's about
7
to be chaotic. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait. And in the meantime, I'm gonna do Stronger, Faster Finisher. And that way, when I do get ready for my first Run Disney challenge, hopefully I'll be faster.
Yeah. So starting out, you joined in March. That was the first round of doing this iteration of what I'm calling Stronger, Faster Finisher. And moving forward, goal of being faster without running faster and faster every long run anymore, right?
Right.
Right.
Lesson learned.
That's okay. You're working with the information that you have, right?
Yep.
and and big plans. Well, you didn't just have wedding. You were also studying for a very big test in your career. You were doing that, you were getting married, planning all of these different things, talking about eventually moving, which I know now that that has happened, but you have all of these big life events happening. How are you ever going to fit in running and get faster at the same time? So I am very biased, but I'm very glad you chose the route you chose. But so that brings us to now that you've done the race distances, let's fast forward a little bit to, well, you can correct me if you don't want to fast forward and you have something through the summer that you want to talk about. We can do that. But I was going to say, let's fast forward to when Princess Fairy Tale Challenge training is going. How did that look different than what we had done together for the just finish? I'll call it quote unquote just finishing because that was the goal for marathon. Let's just finish, get across the finish line. A Princess Fairy Tale Challenge training starts for that in October. I'm not going to say what date because I need the calendar directly in front of me. I know it's sometime in October. And so when you were training for the marathon, when we were training together, it was quote unquote just cross the finish line, right? Like there were no pace goals ahead besides just stay ahead of the balloon ladies, which you did because balloon ladies hold a 16-minute per mile pace, which comes out to be about 7 hours. You did 6 hours and 54 minutes. I don't remember what corral you were, but you definitely stayed ahead of the balloon ladies there. So I do want to make one note. I had brought you back. I had reined you in on those long runs, running the slowest, most awkward snail's sloth pace, turtle pace that you could go. And you had said it came out to be about an 18 or 19-minute per mile average. Come race day, you did 16-minute per mile pace average or slightly faster than that actually, because at 6 hours and 54 minutes. So I'm pointing this out because this is going to be a real piece of the puzzle for this Princess Fairy Tale challenge training that you did. And I also want to make a note for anybody who is listening and has not tried slowing themselves down enough. Christina is right. It is so awkward feeling. It is so awkward looking. I describe it for anybody who ever played The Sims. The Sims bounce in place. That's what it feels like you're doing. You are doing like the bounciest walk, essentially, and then just kind of moving forward. You're like, just hovering there in place, and then you eventually move forward. Okay. So that was marathon weekend. That was the pace you were doing on your long run. Now we're fast forward. Princess Fairy Tale training starts in October. The goal this time is to hit a specific pace. Do you remember, or finish time? Do you remember at that time what your goal was?
So I wanted to finish in less than 3 hours with a goal pace between 13 minutes per mile and 13:30.
Okay. So now we've gone from an 18 or 19-minute long run pace. We've done a 16-minute per mile marathon. You've done probably 14-minute per mile pace on the half marathon. So we're trying to get like a minute to 2 minutes per mile faster. Am I
Yeah,
hearing that? Yeah.
I'd say my previous half marathons were probably a little bit over 14. I think they were somewhere between 14 and 14:30.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to get about a minute to a minute and a half per mile faster. And my long run pace was around 16 minutes per mile to 16:30 doing training for Princess Fairy Tale Challenge. So right away we've come we've come a long way from injured marathon long run training where I'm going at 18, 19 minutes per mile. Now I'm 16-ish minutes per mile and it's like, wow, I feel like I have so much time back on my Saturdays because my long runs aren't taking 6 hours. Um so that was really nice. I appreciated it. Um and then during the week, twice a week, I was doing speed workouts, which I have thought really mean thoughts about you in my head during speed workouts. I'm sorry, but those speed workouts are so hard. And I know they're meant to be, but man, you really punish us.
My ears are constantly burning now. Just in during the week, my ears are just they're always on fire because everybody is cursing me for these speed workouts, including myself when I go to do them. So they are
Yeah.
hard for sure. Aren't you glad I'm not having you do that for 20-mile long runs?
Yeah, I'm really glad I don't have to do that for 20 mile long runs. And honestly, the speed workouts, I love to hate them because in the moment they're very hard, they're very challenging, but they're such a great way to see the progress that you're making because each week the baseline for the speed workouts gets a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster. And it's really easy to track. Hey, when I started this 4 weeks ago, my moderate pace was at 5.3 miles per hour. 4 weeks later, now I'm at 5.7 miles per hour for my moderate pace. So you can't deny the numbers and what you're seeing in the Excel sheets that, when we're tracking our paces and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I did just make it through that speed workout going at 5.7. 4 weeks ago, 5.3, I felt like I was, running out of air and couldn't get enough oxygen in my lungs. And now I'm doing it faster. Like the proof is right there. It works.
And it's for a limited amount of time.
Yeah. I can do anything for 10 seconds. I can run up a hill for 30 seconds. I can do anything for that short of an interval, which is also what makes it a lot more doable than, yeah, let me push myself to a really fast pace for 20 miles and just tough it out because that's what I did. I did just tough it out. I wasn't having a good time. It was challenging, but I was like, well, this is how I get faster. I just keep increasing my mileage while going at this same speedy pace. Um and it was really nice because I would do my long runs at the slower pace and yeah, they took a little bit more time than if I was to go at 13 minutes per mile on every single long run. Slowing down to 16 minutes, it adds a little bit more time on there. But the difference between how I felt after the long runs was also incredible. I didn't feel like, okay, I've just used all of my energy for the entire day and now I'm just going to lay around in bed like a potato because I can't find the energy to do anything else today. I would do my long run, feel great afterwards, shower, and then clean the house and do laundry and go grocery shopping. I'd go meet friends for dinner and drinks in the evening. I wasn't doing that during marathon training before I had started training with you. I would do my long run in the morning and I would be so out of steam that I I was just tapped out for the rest of the day. I didn't want to do anything. I had to take naps if I had plans later in the day, just to have the energy to go out and be social later in the night. I wasn't drinking alcohol because I was so exhausted and so worried that, like, if I had a drink or two the night before a log run, I wouldn't sleep as well and I wouldn't have the energy to make it through the long run.
So
A
your whole
glass of
social life is
so
was shot.
my whole social life was shot, and, like, a glass of wine on a Friday night shouldn't make or break your long run. Staying up a little later than usual on a Friday night to have a social life shouldn't make or break your long run the next day. Your long run shouldn't make or break the rest of your day. Um I felt like I really did feel like my long runs were completely driving the schedule of my life. Like, yeah, I can't go hang out because I need to be in bed for 8 p.m. for my long run. And oh, sorry, I can't hang out. That's a long run day. I'm going to be too tired. And that's really where I was at with marathon training before I met you. And then going into princess training, I was finishing my long runs and I was like, like Energizer Bunny. Like, yeah, okay, what's next? It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I remember we had a conversation like the week of your wedding, or maybe it was the week before your wedding. And we had a conversation something like, I was like, oh, I'm just going to move these runs. Like, don't do these next week. And you're like, oh, no, I totally could. And I was like, it's your wedding week, Christina. You're good. Like, you don't have to do this. And you're like, no, but like, it's fine. It works in the schedule. I was like, you do you, boo boo. If you want to, by all means. But please know if you skip next week, I've already worked it into the training plan that you can skip all of next week and you can even skip the 2 weeks of your honeymoon and you'll be fine. Just don't lay like a slug the entire honeymoon. Just like go for some walks, but you'll be good to we've already planned it out to jump right back in.
I had totally forgotten about that. I did hit a couple runs the week of my wedding. Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yes. That's okay that you forgot. You had more important things that week. So that's
Yeah.
fine, no problem. But we
Yeah.
did. We had that conversation. And you were like, "Oh, no, I could totally do this." And I'm like, please don't. Like, I know what wedding planning is like. I know what having a wedding is like. It's hectic. But you did it. And because that's how good that you had felt. You felt like you had that energy and it was actually like a good stress release, right?
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
complete 180 of how things were before to now. But we did have a little bit of some panic in there leading up to race day.
Yes. It was probably what, 2, 3 weeks before race weekend. It
About
was
a
it
month.
was
Yep.
yeah, it was like right before taper when at that point, you've done all you can do with training. There's not much time left before race weekend. So now it kind of just is what it is. And it hit me that with marathon weekend, my goal was to finish. I didn't care if I had to crawl on my hands and knees across the finish line. As long as I finished that friggin' marathon, that was a win in my book. But now my goal was I want to finish with a goal race pace. And it was a really hard to trust the process that by running at a 16-minute per mile pace on my long runs, suddenly I'm going to be 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes faster on race day. Not to mention my longest run was like 10 miles. So here we've done the thing again where I've only done 10 miles. How am I supposed to go 3 more and do it faster? I messaged you and I was like, look, I'm okay adjusting my goal. If my goal is to just do my best and finish the challenge, because this was my first time doing a challenge race at Disney. So I was doing the 10K and the half. That was new for me. I was like, if I have to adjust my goal so that just finishing the challenge and doing my best is the goal, that's fine. Like I've lowered my expectations because I don't really see how I could possibly go as fast as my goal race pace is. I couldn't fathom it. And you even gave me, a personal anecdote of you having a goal race pace and what your training pace was versus what your race pace was. And it was several minutes per mile faster. And that helped a little bit. It was like, okay, it's possible. Maybe it's not possible for me, but it was possible for someone. Good for them. Yeah, I really didn't believe that all of the training was going to come together and I was going to be able to finish and hit my goal pace. And I loved proving myself wrong. That was great. I did finish with my goal pace. My goal running pace was 13 minutes to 13:30, and I finished right at 13:30. I sent the screenshot right to Allie after I crossed the finish line. I was like, "We did it! Sorry I doubted you." And just like that, I was like, "You know what? I see that it works." And sometimes you kind of have to see for yourself to really let it sink in. Um, but if I can help anyone who maybe is on the same wavelength of finding it really difficult to trust the training process and that this works, um, I'm just another story to add to the list that yes, it does work. If you follow the training plan, it's going to work.
There's a lot of trust in there of trusting this stranger on the internet who claims that these things work. There's a lot of trust that goes into that, and I totally understand. I mean, when we had that panic conversation, luckily it's through Voxer, so I can do a voice note back and you can hear it in my voice as opposed to reading it on the screen, right? And I was just like, I can tell you this until I am blue in the face. It is possible. As much as you can, trust that process. And, you know, i- for you, when you're going that slow long run pace versus this fast race pace, hitting your PR, hitting that goal, what helped you following the training plan aside? Like, what do you think helped to get you there, either mentally and or physically?
Get me where?
Get you to that 13:30.
Mentally or physically?
Yeah.
On race day or just in general
All
over
of
the course
all
of
of the
training?
above. Yeah, maybe race day.
So, race day, I had done the 10K the morning before, and I went a little too fast. I got very overexcited because I was like, "Woohoo, I'm back at Disney. Everything's great." Kind of forgot that I have to do 13 miles the following morning. So I was a little trigger happy during the 10K, but I clocked some minutes that were, or some miles that were faster than 13 minutes per mile during the 10K. And I felt great. I had to force myself to slow down and like walk at one point because I knew I was going too fast. I had to force myself to slow down. I've never had to force myself to slow down except when I was, injured and my knee was in pain. And if I didn't slow down, I would have been hurting even more. Um, so I saw it during the 10K. I saw that it was possible. And then on race day, there was a it was like something clicked during the race where I realized all of the race situations that I was running into were exactly like the speed workouts we did during training. So at some points, the course narrowed and I wasn't able to um, do my intervals the way I had expected. So instead of doing my 30-30 intervals, I ran for a minute, 2 minutes at an easy pace. And because we had been doing that with like the 30-20-10s speed workouts where you are doing running for about 3 minutes straight, varying your pace, I could run for 3 minutes straight. So on that narrow walkway that's by the Grand Floridian in Magic Kingdom where it gets very bottlenecky, I just kept jogging. I didn't really bother to walk. I was like, yeah, I'll just jog through this. It's fine. I have the stamina. And I did have the stamina. It was great. Same thing with sometimes having to weave around people. Sometimes I had to get a little bit faster and like push my pace a little bit. That was also really reminiscent of the speed workouts where just for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you're going a little hard. You're boogieing. And then I was bringing it right back down to my usual intervals. So there was so much. Oh my gosh, the highway ramps. So many people were walking on the highway ramps, but because I had done my hill sprints during training with Stronger, Faster, Finisher, catch me jogging up those highway ramps. It was really great. So I realized that so many of the situations that we had done speed workouts for really do play out in real life on the course. And I had this like, this is what you trained for moment on the course during race day. So that was one realization. And then the second one was I was heading back to Epcot at the end of the course. Um, so maybe had about 2.5 miles left. And I realized I was really, really, really close to hitting my goal pace. But if I wanted to do it, I would have to really lock in for those last 2.5 miles. And that meant I was tired, but I'd have to push a little bit, recognizing that the last mile of the race is not going to be my usual, like, hey, let's slow down, take lots of pictures, soak it in, spend a few seconds by the choir at the end vibing. I'm going to have to like breeze past that and accept that it's going to suck for like 30 minutes. I'm going to be huffing and puffing a little bit, but I'm going to hit my goal. And so I have the choice to work hard for the next 2 miles or so and meet my goal, or take it easy and not meet my goal. And I decided I'm gonna push. And I did it. I hit right at 13:30 for my average running pace.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I love that you noticed on the race course. We hadn't talked about this before, but you noticed on the race course, like, oh, this is why I do the hill workout. This is why I do a 30-20-10. And look at this. You didn't even mention it, but this is why I do a progression run to be able to kick it into full gear toward the end of the race to pick up the pace because you had that realization, oh, it's within reach.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All of those training scenarios, they really do play out on race day. And I think also because so many of my long runs, I had finished them feeling really strong and really full of energy. Because my long runs were easy leading up to that point, the thought of having one long run, my actual race day, end with me being a little sweatier and huffier or puffier than usual was not it didn't seem like the end of the world. It didn't seem like some huge, huge, huge thing. It was just like, yeah, I can do this. It's fine.
I could do this one day. I c I can do anything for 30 seconds, 60 seconds. I can do this for 2 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's incredible. And, one thing we hadn't mentioned that I'm gonna ask you about, what did you fuel with for these races?
I love this question. I love fueling. It's my favorite part of long runs. It's like a little reward. Um, I love eating. I love eating good food. So I take my fueling very seriously because I don't want to eat anything that I don't think tastes good. Um, I've played around with some nasty gel flavors in the past. But for Fairy Tale Challenge, I fueled with the Honey Stinger Chews. So one full pack of those has, I think, over 40 grams of carbs. They're really good. They're just like gummies. They're like fruit snacks, and they taste really good, and they've actually switched to handing those out on the course instead of the sports beans. So that was really fun, because they handed them out, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have these in my pocket already, but yeah, sure, I'll take more." And then my final fueling right before, I finish the race, I do a cosmic brownie. I'm a big fan of cosmic brownies. They pack a lot of carbs. You gotta be careful with them not melting. So like during marathon weekend, I had someone like pass them to me on the course so they didn't just like get warm in my pocket for 26 miles. But yeah, oh, another good fueling tip. The goo gels, there is a chocolate flavor. And if you put it in your pocket and it warms up while you run, it's like warm chocolate pudding. It's pretty
Ah.
banging.
That might be a gel I could get behind because I'm normally not a gel person. I'm a Nerds Gummy Cluster kinda runner. I love me a good cosmic brownie, and I will have that before the run. I can't do if it melts, and kinda like you, like, I need somebody to hand it to me, but that's not always possible, right? So, I
Yeah.
I do it right before, but I bring it up because I do know you're a cosmic brownie person, and I tell everybody and their mom when they're asking for fuel recommendations that aren't gels, that aren't like these chews, that's, food that you can buy in the grocery store. I'm like, I have a runner. She swears by cosmic brownies. They are 42 grams of carbs per brownie. That is some good bang for your buck on that
Is I got
carb load.
one more fueling discovery that happened during Fairy Tale Challenge. Um, there's a Wetzel's Pretzels truck at the starting line that's open.
That's
They
right.
give you an enormous amount of pretzel bites for like $10. It's like two people's worth of pretzels. No one person needs to eat that much pretzel unless you're about to run 13 miles. Then yeah, carb load. So I got myself some Wetzel's pretzels at 3 in the morning and I was sitting in the corral munching on them and I sent a picture and I was like, "Hey, you'd be so proud. I'm
I was
carb
so
loading."
I was so proud. I forgot about that. Yes, that was perfect.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So in addition to all of the training that you did, you also fueled, gave your body some energy so that you did have some gas in the tank for those last 2 miles when you realized, "Oh, I could do this." And you're not feeling like you're dying. You're like, "Oh, no, I could kick it into gear right now for the last 2 miles after just having run 11 miles for this half marathon and 6.2 the day before."
Yeah, and I also learned during training, I experimented a little bit with what worked for me with caffeine versus no caffeine. And I found that in the last final push of my long run, like the last thing that I fuel with, if it's caffeinated, that helps me push through. So I can't do entirely caffeinated gels, chews, whatever, for all of my fueling because that will mess with my stomach. But for that last final 30 minutes, I fuel with caffeine and it's great. So that's like my mid-race pick me up is something caffeinated to help me get through.
That's perfect, and you make it like a caffeine gel, or do you do, like, the caffeine sport beans?
There's caffeine honey stinger gummies. Um they have a couple caffeinated flavors of those. And then I've also done the caffeinated goo gels. I usually go for something that's like chocolatey or vanilla-y. I forget which flavors have caffeine, because I've been on the honey stinger kick for the past few months. But yeah, I I took the time to experiment with it before race day and figure out, what's that sweet spot so that on race day I knew, hey, it's caffeine time. And it really helped me. Because I can feel the kind of mental tiredness kicking in. And that's exactly when the caffeine gets me out of that funk.
That's perfect, and I love you're saying try it ahead of time, especially when it's caffeine. Now, of course, there's nothing new on race day, but especially caffeine, because that can really mess up your stomach, and you want the caffeine to give you a boost and not knock you down.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's perfect. So that is a wild ride, a quite the journey of going no running to running all of the miles. Now I'm doing a marathon and oh, now I want to get faster. I appreciate you sharing that journey, especially the beginning portion. We mentioned it at the beginning. So many Run Disney runners, they're doing it not because they've always been a runner, but because they are a Disney adult or they like the rare characters, they like the shiny metal, and they like Disney. And well, I could run a few miles. How hard could it be? Let's do this. And many runners follow that same path or a similar path that you had followed. So, if there are any runners listening that, maybe are hitting that struggle at doing the half marathon and maybe they are having pain or are aren't going as fast as they want and, have kind of followed that journey. What would have helped you at that time that may help them that they could take away to start moving forward to feeling better on their runs?
The first thing I think I would say is there's there's so many people out there who got started with Run Disney and got started with running in general because of the Galloway running plans. Those plans work for a lot of people. They're free, they're accessible, they're a great starting place. But that's kind of one of the trade-offs with working with a, free or a low-cost plan that takes like the human mentorship, like expert out of the equation. Is like you're just looking at a PDF or you're just looking at, an app on your phone that's spitting out a training plan for you. The Galloway plan, I owe my running start to it, but I feel like it got me through my first couple of races, but then I wasn't sure how to get faster and how to reach my running goals with the Galloway method. And instead of slowing down like I should have, I thought I knew what I was doing and just went fast on my long runs. So I think my first like piece of advice would be, um, it's okay if you reach a point where the current running plan that you're using just doesn't work for you anymore. It didn't work for me anymore because of user error and also because I had very specific goals. Um, so it's okay to step back from Galloway. And I think there's so much value that I have gotten from working with an actual human being that I can message and say, "Hey, I'm having a really busy week this week. Can you help me shift around my training plan?" Or, "Hey, I'm really panicking because I am supposed to run a race in 3 weeks and I don't think I'm going to hit my goal pace. And I'm really bummed out and panicked about that." Like there's so much you get from working with a person who has been with you for your training journey and can say, "Hey, based on what I know about you, I think you're on track. Hey, busy schedule is fine. Looking to the next few weeks, you have wiggle room. We can totally shift your plan around this week. Oh, you rolled your ankle? Let's do walking this week. I did recently roll my ankle, speaking from experience." So I think big piece of advice is get help when you need it. Don't just try and figure things out on your own, because I did that and I got injured, and I don't know where I would be today if I hadn't gotten help. I might not be a marathon finisher, proudly wearing my marathon weekend spirit jersey. So know when to get help. Um, Trust the process that by going slow, you're allowing your body to heal and recover in a way that is going to allow you to go so much faster when it is race day. It's counterintuitive. It feels so hard to believe. Um, and it's crazy that now I'm on the other side of this saying, "Just believe me, dude, it works." Cuz I was, being told, "Just believe me, it works." And I was like, "Yeah, you're crazy, but it does work." So, trust the process, slow down, and get help when you need it.
That's perfect. Because, like you said, the other training plans, whatever training plan somebody is using, it it can be great to a point, right? It's kinda like what got you here won't get you there. Or, a second grader learning to write, or, a better example would be in 6th grade, we used to write books. At Christmas time, we wrote a story, and we put it in these books, and we drew out all of the illustrations to go with it. But the 6th grader writing that book, following the instructions of the 6th grade teacher, is not the same as a PhD thesis candidate writing their thesis. They wouldn't go to the 6th grade teacher for that, even though both of them look like they're writing a book. It's it wor this part works for this particular person, and this part works for this particular person, and they might need different guidance, and that's okay. And I love hearing, like, I if it's not working, or if something needs to change, be okay with that. It doesn't mean that you have done anything wrong. It You are now in a season of your life that needs something different, and that's okay. That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing your story. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you think would be important for the listeners to know?
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of discourse online recently about who deserves to register for races, and like what paces deserve a spot at a race and are worthy of being there. Um as someone who is a back of the pack runner, I was in the very last corral for every single race up until Princess Weekend. Um and I was I was in Corral D for Princess Weekend. So I had moved up 2 corral slots and I was so excited about it. And while I was waiting in the corral on race day, I heard conversations just from a few runners around me that were kind of poking fun and looking down at some of the people in the like last corral and the slower paces. So I've seen some of the conversations online. I've actually experienced it around me and the attitudes of runners in the corral on race day. And I think anyone who gets out of bed at 2 in the morning to go run, walk, do a combination, 13 miles, anyone that's crazy enough to do that is worthy of being there regardless of pace. And I remember I messaged you and I was like, I can't believe like what I'm hearing around me with these conversations. I kind of want to go back to the last corral. People in the last corral were a lot nicer. And I only caught a few people speaking like this. Not everyone is like that. Huge disclaimer there. Just because one person's a jerk doesn't mean every person's a jerk. But I feel like for those of us who are slower runners, comments like that, um, it's really hard not to take it to heart and to not feel like, ugh, I wish I was faster. Like my body physically cannot be faster right now. I'm working on it. Like I'm doing the best that I can. And it's still like, I'm probably never going to be an 8 minute per mile runner. And I'm okay with that. It takes a lot of self esteem and a lot of confidence to get past the point of caring about pace. I still have days where I feel self conscious about my pace, and my pace has improved over the past couple years of me being a Run Disney runner. So I think if anyone out there is feeling self conscious about the number on their watch, or on the treadmill, I would say try to work through that, and you belong in this running community regardless of what that number is.
That's wonderful because even even you, listener, if you're going 17, 18, 19-minute per mile paces, or even slower than that, you're still going the same mile as the person that's running the 6, 7, and 8-minute per mile pace. It's the same mile. You just get to enjoy Disney a little bit longer.
A mile is a mile, fast or slow.
Was a mile. Absolutely. I think that was a great point to share. And this Run Disney community, you belong in here no matter what pace you're at.